Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight we are talking about some of Supernatural's strangest and most memorable monsters. But before we get into that, let's let our wonderful panel introduce themselves, starting with Kyoko.
Hi, everybody. I am Kyoko M. I'm the author of the Black Parade urban fantasy series, as you see here, and the Of Cinder and Bone science fiction series. I'm also a contributor to Black Panther Tales of Wakanda and Captain America: The Shield of Sam Wilson anthologies as well. I got into Supernatural like way late in the game, actually, several years after college, and amusingly, after I had written two urban fantasy books in which I described Jared Padalecki exactly and had no idea that's what I was doing. What had happened is I was unemployed for a big long stretch and I needed to fill the hours because just job search doesn't fill them all. And so I sat down because I knew the show was so long running and it was when it was on Netflix at the time. And I started watching it and just instantly fell in love with just the creativity of the monsters, the relationship between the two of them, all of those wonderful side characters we got to know. So that's my path to Supernatural.
Okay, Thom.
Hi. So I'm Thom DeSimone. I am not an author. I'm a content creator, or so people tell me. That's what I am. Yeah. I got asked, so I do stuff for dragonmount.com. We mostly, when I first started, focused on Wheel of Time stuff, but now we do a lot of different fantasy literature, but also since I'm the one that's making the content, I love movies and television. So we have been doing like just a huge movies and television kind of series where we rewatch things. We just did a couple of movies to end the year out, and we're going to be starting the animated series of the Clone Wars January 26th. And we're going to watch that all the way through. And I have a different guest on every Monday. Kyoko has been a guest a bunch of times for movies and TV shows, which was always a ton of fun.
Yes, it is. I highly recommend it, people.
Yay! I've kept doing it because I get to talk to like friends, that I've met at like conventions, and like normally you only get to see them when you go back to the convention the next year. But I started doing this, and now I get to talk to them, randomly throughout the year, all year round, and it's great. I came to Supernatural real late too. I got hurt at work and was laid up for a couple of months, and I think it's like 2014, 2015. So I think it was like at least, I think like 10 seasons had been out by that point. And it was on the WB. So like the WB has burned me before with shows, and like they always end up being like high school dramas. And I didn't want to trust it. So I ignored Supernatural for a long time, but I started watching it and immediately fell in love with it and just binged the whole fucking thing back then and have stayed up to date with it the whole time. And, you recognize they've jumped the shark about 11 times, but it's fun.
That's part of what we're here for. Yeah,
exactly. It's fun. I'm not looking for Oscar winning, theologian, big think things all the time. Sometimes you just need like, popcorn for your brain, and their nonsense is just a lot of fun.
Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I started watching Supernatural when that very first episode aired, and I watched it all the way through to the end when that last episode just made me cry. I'm starting to think that it might be my superpower to notice when cool things come on and watch them at that very beginning, because I was an early adopter of Buffy too, and a couple of others.
Okay.
I also used to get TV Guide back when that was a thing.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back when that was how you figured out what was on TV. So.
Oh, yeah.
That slow scroll, and then you got mad if you accidentally didn't look fast enough.
No, when it was a magazine.
The paper.
The paper ones, yes.
In your
My aunt
mailbox.
had those.
Yeah. I remember that. I know what you're talking about though. Like on Long Island in New York, it was channel 14, I think, and it would just like it was a blue screen with white lettering, and it was just scroll with all the, with the basic channels. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my books have monsters and magic and spooky stuff and ghosts and people who take care of supernatural problems. I fell in love with Supernatural halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in about 3 months in time to watch the start of season 12, and fell down the rabbit hole and haven't come up since. So, I am excited to be talking more about my favorite show. And let's start off with Kyoko. Give us one of your favorite or strangest monsters and tell us why.
I'm going to go ahead and start with the Scarecrow. I think that one, the Veneer, is the actual named monster that they were representing in that episode. And so that was really neat for me just because from the fandom side of things, I don't actually know. I'm a weirdo, so I have a bunch of background in Greek mythology from my degree from University of Georgia. I have an English degree. And so like there's a big chunk of Greek mythology that I just have memorized. And so Norse, I kind of only know from the Marvel side of things because I just heavily write Thor and Loki fan fiction because I'm a dork. And so some of those things I'll pick up here and there. Just like little bits and pieces though, not a ton. So when I got to sit down and I was starting this show and binging it from the beginning to kind of run into some Norse mythology that early in was really neat for me, just because like I said, a lot of the public's exposure to what those myths are like is very it goes all over the place. It's just like it makes no sense. I have an English degree. I love Disney's Hercules, even though 100% they made it all up. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
no, it has nothing to do with what they're actually like. But they made up
It
their
was the
own
music.
thing, and yeah, it was so cute. I didn't care. It was absolutely adorable.
Yeah. And Danny
Um,
DeVito was fantastic.
Oh God, he was so good. Oh my God. Everything about that one was just delightful. But it was interesting because, like I said, I just kind of pick and choose what mythology I had memorized by that point. So to get to see that in that context, and also just getting to see Supernatural early in a time where not that many shows were doing this, having something where it implies before the show really opened up to show you this is a world where all of those gods are existing. So a lot of us hadn't had exposure to that other than something like American Gods. So to me, it was just really cool to recontextualize Norse mythology in that way. And again, the way that that show was often able to kind of make you think it's something, and then you're just sitting there trying to guess the whole time. But also, I just like the design in general. I thought the creature design was fantastic for that episode. It was very eerie and threatening. And they've always been very good about how they can design the stuff that way. So most of mine will be talking just about creature designs, if nothing else. Like I met Doug Jones earlier this year because I've been waiting to meet him for 20 years because I love good creature design. So
Oh
I'll give
yeah.
it to Pro first.
Okay, Tom?
Oh God, yeah. The so I mean, I feel like anyone who has spiciness in their brain will understand this. It's so hard for me to pick my favorite anything because like it really is it just depends on literally what moment you ask me and my favorite could change, or I just have many favorites and I don't discriminate between them. I don't know, but like and what I wrote down for some of my notes when I was like I rewatched all of Supernatural when I signed up for like all the Supernatural panels because I was so excited. But one of the things I really love about fantasy and urban fantasy and just all any books, any fantasy books, or science fiction too. There's some good science fiction ones out there that delve into stuff like this. Um, and the Vanir are a great example of it. I love seeing authors, whether it's authors or directors or actors or writers or what have you on film, uh, take like established lore, like the Norse mythology or the Christian mythology that they turn it upside down and inside out throughout Supernatural. But I love seeing the different takes on things. Like that's one of my favorite things is seeing like an author or a writer's take on something and their own little spin that they put on it. It always really interests me. I think that's why I really like historical fantasy a lot. Um, I really like Kevin Hearn, the Iron Druid series, all of the gods of all of the pantheons exist and they intermingle and talk to each other, and like those types of things were I always thought were really interesting. And they do that real well with this, coming out of kind of left field with some of the stuff with the Vanir, a great one. Another one of my favorites that I wrote on that list, I wrote three: Vanir, dragons, and fairies, because there weren't a lot of uh you know like obscure religious, real world mythological ones that are like specifically tied to one thing, like those were. And their take on dragons particularly I liked a lot. It reminded me of like World of Warcraft, for those who have ever played that. Like the dragons in that often will shapeshift into humans and stay as humans for a long time, and they have the very like Western European ideal of like hoarding gold and money and or just valuables. And I really, really, really enjoyed their take on the dragons when they went and met with them with the whole Eve thing, because they were like, oh, these are one of the only creatures that could destroy Eve or whatever it was.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like the dragons a lot.
Okay, Elektra?
Yeah. I'll point out that one of my other hobbies is that I judge cat shows, and whenever I do a final and give my top 10, I always say that this is my top 10 today, and tomorrow it could be different or in a different order because there are always so many deserving things. So today, my favorite weird monster is Pish Taco from the
Peru.
season 9 episode The Purge. Um, Partly because it was a kind of really cool idea of a monster that could, suck out the fat. Like, honest, I wanted to be best friends with that monster.
Oh yeah.
I really did. And we got the side of one monster who was just trying to, slide under the radar and exist and run a spa for people who wanted to lose weight. She was nice.
Helping people.
And then you know, her relative who just, you brought him to the all-you-can-eat buffet and he was just gonna, scoop up every shrimp in the bowl and take the whole thing with him and not share with anyone.
Hmm.
And, he just could not be trusted because there's one in every crowd, guys, always.
Oh yeah.
He'd get kicked out of the wedding. Yeah, just
Yeah.
so you got to see different size and bonus, that's the episode where we meet Donna, who is, awesome.
Oh yeah.
Very awesome.
I really liked, just to build off that real quick. I really like the fish taco ones, or fish taco, or I love that Dean calls them fish tacos though. Like that's another really great example of them taking like real, most, I want to say most, if not all of the creatures that they deal with in this are at least based on real world folklore. I don't think they outright made anything up that I can recall, at least. I'd love to see if anyone can remember any, or later on if someone in the comments can.
I think that's also the episode where they brought up people who do the most you can eat contests,
Yeah.
which is just like a thing that happens in real life, and it was cool they brought it in because it's such
Yeah.
a silly thing that people do.
Yeah.
Well, I have been a monster fan since I was a kid. I know I came home from the library one day with a book called A Child's Garden of Witches. That just sort of set the tone. I was always getting books on monsters and looking, watching monster movies and particularly the folklore and the urban legends. And when I was in college, I got a chance to study with folklorist Dr. Hilda Kring, and she's written about all these creatures and folklore and stories. So this Supernatural was just catnip for me, because, like you said, they drew on so many myths and legends and embroidered them and, shifted them. But honestly, over the centuries, that's what people have done to all those myths and legends, is made them fit the time. So the one I'm going to call out, again, has some roots in real mythology, and that is the Noxerer. It's a type of German vampire, and it it doesn't necessarily eat or drink blood. It's more of a combination vampire and ghoul. So they're a little different from some of the other undead creatures consumes dead bodies, not related to suicide, sometimes from, oh, I'm sorry, often happens with accidental death or suicide, but it's not created by being bitten or scratched. And it changes after it's already dead, so you can't catch it. It's not going to turn you, but it's related to if there is a large if a large group of people die from, say, the plague, the first person to have died is believed to have been a Noxer. So I was just fascinated that they found this kind of obscure creature. Silver doesn't work on it, but placing a copper coin in its mouth and decapitating it killed it. Now that's in Supernatural, not necessarily world, um, the actual legend.
Yeah.
But it made for an interesting way to have to deal with it. And let's be honest, taking the head off something works in almost all cases, sooner or later. It's one of those sure things. And Dean gets him with the door of the Impala.
Hmm.
Um, so that one was just such an unusual one. And it was in Baby. So to me, that was just a fun one because it was not what I was expecting. Back to you, Kyoko. Give us another good one.
I like it when they are able to kind of like avert expectation, which is what I found they do. They're very good at that on the show. So
Oh
the
yeah.
next one I'll do is one that was a little surprise to me because at first I remember at the time I was extra disappointed. But over time, I actually came to kind of find the idea charming, which is the Hellhounds.
Hmm.
So keep in mind, I'm somebody who only went 9 seasons in and I couldn't take anymore. So if they ever did further stuff with them for when they weren't just invisible and they get into further lore, that's great. If not, at first I was really disappointed. I was like, oh, they talk about a Hellhound. I can't wait to see what they're gonna think of because I'm one of those people who I like to picture them like the Van Helsing Wolfman, the final one, the big one, but like
Yeah.
big and shaggy and really intimidating, and they're like 10 like the size of a wolf and just like all this. And so we get to the show and they're like, oh, well, you can't see them. And I'm just going, what? Could you not decide on a design or something? What the do you mean they're invisible? But
That's
as I
funny.
stopped and I was like, no, wait a minute. Let me sit with that. That's actually worse. That's a hunt. No, that's so much worse. It's invisible. Oh no. So like that would create a level of paranoia that would just be unstoppable, especially for somebody who like me already has anxiety. So
Oh yeah.
again, absolutely started out mad, and then I thought, when the more I sat with it, the more I was like, actually, you know what? No, that is very clever because it lets your brain do it for you. It lets you, because
Oh
even
yeah.
when it kills Dean, I can't watch that scene. Good God, it's just so traumatizing. And that's what I mean of like letting your brain do the work with them actually makes them 10 times scarier.
Oh
I
yeah.
like how they were used in the show. I thought it was usually at points where it made sense. And again, they give them a lot of reverence too. Like those awful sounds that they produce are just like spine tingling.
Oh yeah.
So I'll go with Hellhounds for my next choice.
Okay. Tom?
Can I? I want to ask Kyoko a question real quick. So I don't remember where in the series this falls, but the whole episode is Hellhounds. Like there's a family, like I think it's in Texas, like a whole rich family, and they all made deals, and they all collectively
Bloodlines?
yeah, bloodlines, yeah, and they all collectively get hunted by hellhounds throughout the episode.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that one?
I cannot
Yeah.
recall if I
Oh,
did.
Okay,
I
yeah, I
might
wasn't
have
sure if
though.
that was. I didn't know if. But
Not
in
not
that,
always one of the best episodes, but
it
it was
wasn't.
supposed to be a spin-off, and it
Yeah,
yeah.
they wanted to try to do a
He's
spin-off.
talking
Yeah.
about the ranch where
Yes,
everybody made deals with
oh, okay, sorry.
that's
um
it.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
made
I think I
made
did see
made
that one.
crossroads deals, and they
Yeah, it
all
was
Yeah.
all
came
crossroads deals.
to fruition at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mhm.
That
and
was
they get
not
hunted by the.
bloodlines. That
Okay.
was
No, yeah,
something
no.
else. Oh,
But in that episode they also they made hellhound seeing glasses, and they were able to see them a little bit, and they looked really
Oh
cool.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
They like
they
put the glasses through the holy fire or something.
yep, they dipped them in holy water or holy oil and then lit them on fire. Or had to put them in that, how they always light the holy oil on fire. They had to put it in that fire, and then the glasses can see the hellhounds, and they looked really cool. They were like, because of the tint of the glass that they were using, it was like blue glass or whatever. They came up as all blue, like almost like a pencil drawing, and they were all covered in fire. So they looked really cool. Like that episode wasn't like the best episode ever, but yeah, the hellhounds were really cool too. I liked their takes on everything. It's so hard to pick anything. Um, another so mine's an easy one. It's not a weird creature. Another one of mine that are my favorite is an easy one, but it's not a weird creature. The vampires. So I always watch vampire movies. I always read vampire books. I'm not even a big vampire fan. Like I don't love vampires or anything, but they seem to be the most used, but also like the most diversely written creature. If that makes sense. Like there's so many different takes on vampires, like the vampires in Anne Rice versus the vampires in I forgot the lady that wrote Twilight. Very different vampires, and like every different iteration that I've seen of vampires in different movies and different books and different video games, so vastly different. I love to just watch different creators versions of them, and the supernatural ones were no different. They have their obviously very similar things that other vampires are. They're always like the biting. Sometimes they have to bury themselves or whatever to change. Sometimes they have to drink their blood or both bloods or what have you. Sometimes just the bite is enough to change. But I liked their take on the vampires a lot, because it was a more animalistic version of them, where it was they were more monsters and less sexy. Like you were like I was more scared of the supernatural vampires, and I less wanted to have sex with them than most vampires and most other things, I feel like.
Okay, Elektra.
Um, I've got Okami down, which we didn't get to see much of. Rufus showed up with a dead one, he thought, in the back of his car at Weekend at Bobby's. And Bobby's busy doing a whole bunch of stuff, and Rufus just wants to bury the thing. And then suddenly there's a hole in the ground, and they're having an argument about how many times did you stab it with the blessed dagger? Well, I stabbed just 5 times. No, you need to stab it 7 times. And they went back and forth over it. And it was, well, you've got to stab it 7 times with a bamboo dagger that's been blessed by a Shinto priest, or it doesn't stay dead. And eventually he manages to kill the thing by running it through his neighbor's
Wood chipper,
goodness,
right?
wood chipper, yes, and makes it into itty bitty pieces. That is the episode with the peach cobbler that he just never gets to eat. It is just such an entertaining episode because the Jody keeps showing up, and there's the body in buried over here, and the Leviathan in the basement, and he's just trying to dodge law enforcement, and there's bodies everywhere and things crawling back out of the holes. But the Okami was supposed to stay dead. And like many things, if you cut off their heads, they often will stay dead. When you run them through a wood chipper, it's very hard for them to become, alive again.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, and I got to agree with Thom on vampires. I have loved vampires since I watched Dark Shadows as a kid, and
Oh,
some of my reading and my viewing habits, you can kind of understand how I ended up here. But yes, Barnabas Collins was just absolutely fascinating. And I blame that show for a lot of things. This isn't one of my favorite of the supernatural monsters, but since the title said strangest, I'm going to go with Jefferson Starships.
They're usually at the top when people make that list.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna open up by asking, are we just gonna do a whole panel on the Jefferson Starships? Because I feel like we could.
They have the weirdest name.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What
They,
did what did Dean always say? It's because they're hard to
They're
kill.
killing. There's a lot of them, I want to say.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
keep coming back.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, they can only be killed with decapitation with a silver knife, ripping their hearts out, or angelic light. But they're fast and they're strong. They've got stamina. They have fangs like a vampire, but they also have spikes like a wraith. They can shapeshift. They can turn people by biting them. They regenerate. So they were a pretty fearsome monster despite Dean's fairly silly name for them. And they showed up in Mommy Dearest. They were really, I think that's the only episode they showed up in. Um, and by the way, there is a Jefferson Starship song playing in the background.
Yep.
It has to be. Come on, you got to do
Has,
Yeah, you
has to
can't.
be.
Can't.
But I just thought that it was made to be the ultimate beast by Eve, the mother of monsters. And, she missed a few tricks because it still couldn't get past the Winchesters, but
Yeah.
A for effort.
Yeah. I love how they made like the most ultimate epic beast, but gave it like probably the silliest name of all things in the entire TV show. Like I like that juxtaposition that they always do with stuff, and that's just another great example of the show.
Well, and that's Dean bringing them down to size. I'm not going to be
Yes,
afraid
because
of
he
these
can't help
guys. I'm going to
himself.
give them a silly, embarrassing name because I'm Dean Winchester and I'm not scared. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Back to you, Kyoko.
Which that segues perfectly because that's actually going to be the next one I was going to mention, which is the Buru Buru. Um, I really enjoyed that one in particular, just because it's early enough where we really do need to be reminded that Dean can be scared of things. Because he's so cool all the time, and he just never wants to show you any vulnerability. And
Are
so
you
the
talking about
idea,
yellow fever, right?
yes, yellow, yeah, exactly, yellow fever. So, it was just enjoyable getting to see that vulnerability finally, because again, he is such on his tough guy shtick. Like he won't get off it, and he's just so determined that he has to be the cool older brother that's never fazed by anything, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
show Sam the way, and like, no, dude, it's like life is scary, especially what you do, which is hell, literal hell.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's an interesting way to kind of like there's so many things that it gets to expose and just talk about, but it also just links back to an episode of Batman the Animated Series I adored, which is an episode where it's just the opposite, which is where the Scarecrow created something that eliminates fear, and Batman on No Fear was the most terrifying thing you'll ever see in your life. So I like that it also kind of made me think about it in the reverse, because like if there was that would be such an easy thing to prey on, because it doesn't matter who you are, even from a subconscious level, you are afraid of something. So it would have an unlimited resource in human beings for sure, because good God, from
Yeah.
physical fears to just mental fears, we have them all over the place. And so it also was just a great chance to see uh, uh, I'm sorry, Jensen's comedic timing, which is
Oh
very,
yeah.
very good. So
Mhm.
Oh,
that's
very good. He's a great
Okay.
actor.
Oh,
Uh, the build. I just want to build off something that Kyoko said real quick. Another thing that I really liked about the writing of this show, specifically with the character of Dean, how you were saying like, he's the part of the older brother, and like, he has to be the hard one, and stern, and strong and everything. They easily, that's not a word. They easily could have fell into like a character that was like, because don't get me wrong, Dean is a little bit misogynistic. He's a little bit
yes.
homophobic. He's a little bit, I don't know what you would call, hating monsters, but he just hates monsters because they're monsters.
Fantastical racism technically is the term.
There you go. There you
That is
go.
the
Oh,
Trump
okay,
term.
okay. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah. He's a fantastic racist. No, that's terrible. But they could have fell into like a pattern of glorifying him and his thoughts in a way, but I feel like they did a good enough. Well, I mean, hindsight 2020, you can always do a better job, but I feel like they did a pretty good job of not glorifying his stance and views on things, but using them to tell the story of the other and show that he was actually wrong in his thoughts, and they weren't like saying that this was correct or anything, or just to display the nuance of things. They would often use his caveman-like brain. So I really liked that a lot. But back to the monsters. The quick one, just and I mentioned it already, kind of, but the fairies were both. I liked seeing them, but also I wasn't a fan of what they did with like all of the different fairy lore. Like I liked that they brought in some of the stuff, but I would have much. I love the Dresden Files fairy lore, if anyone is a fan. But there's, the fairy courts and Mab and Titania and the winter court and the summer court, and they're, kind of at war with each other, but not really. It's just about balance and nature and stuff. And they have this whole big hierarchy of things. And I was just kind of hoping to see a little, and that kind of goes in with the actual fairy, the Tuatha De Danann like lore and stuff. There's some similarities there, but I would like to just see a little bit more with the fairies, with that kind of stuff. I mean, we got like changelings in like the early couple of seasons was the only other really fairy creature outside of when they were doing lots of fairy stuff, like all in a sequential thing. There was like leprechauns and the red hats and actual fairy, like they called them fairies. But I like seeing when they bring them into things at all, because you don't really see them that often done in that way. It's either like grotesque or whatever, but I liked that they brought them in.
Okay, Elektra?
The con worm, which was another thing that Dean named, but it was little more appropriate because he was calling back to Wrath of Khan, where they had something that went into your ear and controlled you.
So gross.
I really like what happened in that episode where Rufus and Bobby and Sam and Dean and the Campbells were all in a closed environment, and they had to deal with one of these worms that was going from one person to another, and they didn't know where it was. And they were trying to figure out how to get it out of people and whether it was possible to do that without killing the host. And it was such a small thing, but it was, causing them to kill each other. And also, yeah, it was disgusting.
If we had done an episode, wouldn't be Strangest. If it was grossest, that one is in my top 10. Easy.
Well, I mean, the pit is running, and one of the things that happened on the pit was someone came in with an ear problem, and they flushed out their ear and threw in some lidocaine, and they had just a giant cockroach in their ear. And it was just like, having something in your ear is just, ew, gross.
God.
Even if it's something they can get rid of that didn't hurt you.
It doesn't matter. It's so disturbing. It's a very primal thing of like, we have always been afraid of a parasite, just from a very basic biological level.
Nobody wants anything in their ears.
Yeah. And then also just the mind games that stupid thing played in that group. Like the stuff that they said to each other was just, it was it's an episode like that, like my blood boils when I think about it, because it was just like, oh man, that thing was, not only was it disgusting and effective, it was just sick. It made them say awful shit.
Well, think about the group. That entire group was either family by blood or they were found family. They were, really close to each other one way or the other. And having them say nasty things to each other tore us as the viewers apart, because these were people we loved.
Yeah.
And
brutal.
Seeing them hurt each other just, again, at a primal level, just destroyed us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with the Rougarou. Now, Rougarous are part of traditional Cajun and Louisiana and Canadian folklore. Monster with the head of a wolf, body of a man, prowls the swamps, feeds on the blood of humans. Supernatural treated it in a number of ways that were not a perfect match for the legend, but that's how these legends grow and evolve and transfer over time, is that they get adapted to whatever story is being told. And, once again, you can kill it by fire and decapitation. That works on just about everything. They also fear frogs in the traditional stories. Not so much now. I can just picture Sam and Dean chasing it around the bunker with a frog.
Yes.
Yep.
But
Oh God, just carrying a toad.
that's right. So he, in Supernatural, it locks Sam in a closet and is ready to eat Dean, but Sam escapes and kills it with a flamethrower. So, good old flamethrower. Well, folks, we are coming up actually to the end of our time. So I want to have time for everybody to have a chance to say what you're working on now. And if you have a new recent or upcoming project, what it is and where we can find you online. Kyoko?
Once again, I was Kyoko M. You can find all of my work at shewhowritesmonsters.com. I've got some recent anthologies out. There's actually the Dragon Soul Press one coming up. It's actually a short story I wrote exclusively for them. It is a story of Agent from my series. That's Agent Yusuke Akamura. He is recapturing the escaped Siren Wyvern Dragon that escaped at the end of my fifth book in my Of Cinder and Bone series. So that will be out actually, I think at the end of this month, if I have that correct. So if you're interested, please jump on my website and check it out. That again was shewhowritesmonsters.com.
Okay.
I
Thom?
love that website. I love your website. I
Thank
love it.
you.
Every time I read it, whenever I have you on, when I'm putting it in the description of the YouTube video, I'm like, I just get happy. I like it. Um, I want to honorable mention the mucosa or whatever, the fly creatures that were like Jeff
Oh,
Goldblum's
yeah.
fly from the movie, because they were also gross, but the costuming was fantastic. I love the costume. It was great. Um, so I'm Thom DeSimone. Content creator. I do stuff for dragonmount.com. Currently, we have a continuously running web show, I guess you could call it. We're going on like 4 or 5 years now. We go every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we call it Rewatch. Hashtag rewatch, but REWOTCH, like Wheel of Time. Because we started rewatching season 1 of the Wheel of Time TV show and get to prep for season 2, but now we just do the patron. We have the Dragon Mount Patreon, and our patrons vote on what our next show is going to be, and then that is the show that we watch. The other thing that we're working on is the Patreon. We relaunched it recently. It hadn't been touched in. Dragon Mount's been around for 28 years. I think it hadn't been touched since like 2011 or something like that. And we relaunched it completely, revamped the whole thing, and we're continuously working on that. We're about to Tor Books sponsors us. So we're doing a Tor book club, and Tor is hooking us up with books that I use as giveaways on the show. And it's the only, I've never been in a book club before. Fair warning, if anyone ever wants to join it. So we're kind of making it up as we go. But at the end of it, we, do our normal book club things that I've seen in movies, at least. I don't even know if it's real or if they made it up for movies, but like little meetings and stuff. We talk on Discord. But at the end of it, we do kind of like theming it for like a convention. We do like a serious panel, a fun panel, usually like a trivia game or whatever or something. And it's all based on the book that we're reading. And then we wrap it up with a Q&A interview with the author. So the first book that we did Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons, and we did a Q&A with Jen Lyons at the end of it. And we haven't picked the book for this upcoming one. We start in February. But they're voting on it now. But we'll do the same thing. We'll, schedule a time with the author. We do one book a quarter so that it's not like super, a lot for everybody. And we'll do an interview with him in April and then get ready, start a new book, and patrons vote on it. And we have a huge Patreon stuff, lots of stuff, even a free tier. You could join the book club in the free tier. And we also have like video game servers in the free tier. Like if you play Minecraft or other survival craft games like that, we have a Dragon Mount server, so you don't have to deal with assholes from the internet, because we're at least, a community of good assholes.
And where can we find you online?
Dragonmount.com. You can find links to everything. We have our YouTube channels where we stream every week. We have a Facebook page, TikTok, where Kitty, a friend of ours, and another Dragonmount staff member, makes her fun little TikTok. She has a closet full of costumes. She's always different characters. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find everything you need to know about me at untilmidnight.com. I'm still working on the novel, so nothing new is coming out. And every Monday night at 7 o'clock on Mastodon, you can find us where one of our hosts will ask random questions on, well, we'll ask questions on a random topic using the hashtag #RightFans, and everybody is welcome to join in and get the conversation going. Um, this past week, the topic was your writing desk. Week before that, it was birds. They are
Eh.
definitely random topics, but it's just trying to get a conversation going and people join in, and it is fun.
Sounds great. Well, I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. If you spell those right, you'll find me on all the major social medias. The latest book is Angels and Omens in my Morgan Bryce Treasure Trail series. And coming up tomorrow, actually, as this is recording, is the audiobook release for Thunder Road in my Morgan Bryce Badlands series. And still working on, got a couple new Kelsey Martin books coming up and some more Morgan. So there'll be new books coming. So stay
Yay.
tuned. But most of the time, you can find me here on Continual. So thank you so much to our wonderful, wonderful panelists. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up on Continual. So we'll see you online.